Hello, Project Nerd viewers. This is Dane Mychal, and I'm back with another film festival interview. This is for the Nederland Film Festival, and I'm here with Randy Boyum, the animator. And Randy, thank you for joining us, first of all.
Thank you very much for having me.
And you're presenting The Extinction of Up, which I have viewed 3 times today, and I'm excited to talk about it. But first, I wanted to set this up because this film is Claymation, stop motion animated film. Yeah. And I want to take you back to a time, this would have been about 1986 or so. And my family and I used to watch on occasion The Wonderful World of Disney on ABC. It was a Sunday evening program. And one time my father showed us a film and he recorded it on VHS. And so we watched it all throughout childhood. And it was The Adventures of Mark Twain by Will Vinton. And I think it was that point that I learned that claymation, while it could be fun, and yes, there were laughs to be had in The Adventures of Mark Twain, I really learned that you could express so many emotions in clay. And throughout my childhood, I've appreciated that film and again revisited it as an adult recently and loved it. And so that's when I saw your film come up, The Extinction of Up, and you on our interview queue, I said, well, I want to take this one because I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the message in it. So I want to talk about, first of all, what was your inspiration for getting into claymation filmmaking?
Back in the 70s, when I was a kid, all the great monster movies were done in stop motion, and Ray Harryhausen was the master of that. And he did Jason and the Argonauts and a whole series of Sinbad movies and 1 Million Years BC, all with mostly dinosaurs, which were so exciting to see moving around, as stop motion puppets. So that kind of set the fire to do stop motion. I personally would have loved to create creatures like his, but that requires doing latex and casting and sculpting, and it's kind of a really expensive and pricey and toxic environment to work in. And when I decided to start doing animation again, I dabbled in it when I was a kid. And then in 89, I got my hands on a camera and started messing around with it again and realized I thought it would be a lot easier to just go with the clay look rather than the realism dinosaur thing. I was a huge fan of Gumby and of Davy and Goliath, both made by the same studio. A man named Art Clokey created those. And that just made me realize that, you can do a lot of really cool, fun things in clay and not have to mess with the latex stuff and creating realism characters. And so when I started again in 1989, I just did like most animators do when you start stop motion. You roll a bunch of balls around on the top of your kitchen table and mess with the motion and see what it's like to do things. And eventually learned how to make armatures so I could have, characters that actually stood up, because clay doesn't support its own weight. It's too heavy. If you try to make a walking character with arms with no armature inside. So that just kind of set me on the track of what I've been doing for the last 30 years.
Awesome. So what are the armatures made of? What material is that?
I use electrical wire, copper. You can go online and there's a million ways to make an armature. I worked at a company locally called Lost Leader Productions, which is no longer here, but I learned how to make a really great wire armature. And I can send a photo. I'll let you see that. That works incredibly well for a very low cost. A lot of the armature videos that you see on YouTube use a steel or aluminum wire, various things. But the wire that I use is actually copper, and it's got the plastic coating on the outside. It's electrical wire. But the plastic coating actually helps hold the armature together longer, because wire armatures will break. If you use them enough, bend them enough, depending on how long you use a character, you can have a wire snap inside the character, which then you have to go in and repair. And so using the wire that I do, they hold up a lot longer.
Okay. So let's talk about the Extinction of Up. What number of film is this for you, and how similar or dissimilar is this film in terms of theme to other films you've made prior to this?
Not really sure the number of the film. I would say probably 12, 13, 14 as far as a short film goes. I've done probably 50 projects in the last 20 years here in my home studio in Denver. But a lot of those were not necessarily short films. I did a whole series of greeting cards. I've done corporate work. I've done other projects for clients as well as projects of my own. And the Extinction of Up was for myself. I came up with the idea of Extinction of Up because over the last 10 years, as smartphones have become prevalent everywhere, I've made comments over the years that, eventually people's heads won't even be able to look up anymore. They'll just be frozen looking straight down. And everybody's thumbs are going to become long and pointy because that's what everybody does. And so I'd been saying that for several years. And then a couple of years ago, it was in May of 19, I was sitting at a stoplight in my car and I watched some guy, standing at a stoplight, and he walked across the street, and it was a glorious, beautiful day. And the guy never looked up. I mean, I was surprised to even notice that the walk light had changed, but just there he went, and just, I'm like, what are you even looking at, dude? Just look up. It's a beautiful, beautiful day out here. And why, what I have a smartphone, but to me, it's just a tool. I don't know why people are so enthralled with them, but that is what made me think, maybe people need to look up, and it gave me the idea for this film.
Well, I'm glad you didn't say, I was trying to have a conversation with my child or grandchild, and they wouldn't look up from their phone. But I do get what you mean. And sometimes I'm guilty of that. And I think this is a great film for people to watch in this time. And I really enjoyed the message. I think we could get into talking about the whole thing, because for me, it's a movie that you can't really spoil, because even if you know what it's about, there's still a lot to it, and a great experience to be had from watching it. And I don't know. One thing I wanted to ask you about was sound, and how important to you was getting the sound exactly right. Because I noticed you've got it's almost like the perfect background hum. Because this is a wordless film, there's almost like the perfect background hum, and then there's some beautiful piano music. How much of the thought goes into sound when you're doing this, because you've spent so much time on the clay and the shooting and
I for the most part, I do all my own sound. I wrote the music. The background noise is just city hum, and I literally, one night, it was about 3:00 in the morning. I live fairly close to a busy road, and during the day it's very trafficy sound, but 3:00 in the morning, there's a little, but not much. So I actually hung a window or a microphone out my window and just hit record audio, and got the sound of city traffic in the distance, and a couple of revving cars at certain moments and stuff, which seemed to work well, just, going on in the background. And as far as the texting noise, I just recorded my phone hitting a few of the text buttons, and and then I went in and added that up and sped them way up, because these guys know how to text. They're fast. Yeah. And for the most part, they only use one hand while they're typing that fast. And so sound is very important in films. And so I always, try to do the best I can with creating my own sound effects. Occasionally I'll buy something on a sound effects library, just, if I can't create an explosion or, whatever I might need.
Right.
But for the most part, I do all of my own audio work as well. And for a lot of the films that these guys star in, I even do a lot of the voices for them. And so if it's happens to be a project for a client, I usually, will have the client send me a finished soundtrack first. And that's how you deal with animation and making sure the lip sync goes with the words that you're hearing, is because you've got to have the audio first so that you know what mouths to use and how to have the character react to the audio.
Awesome. So the main characters in this movie are teens, but I think you do a good job of showing that this is not just a generational problem, because other characters that do pass by, they're all living in this same society where
Too, yeah.
where you know a person by looking at their shoes. That's how you identify somebody, by their shoes.
That's the future, people.
This is a bleak future that we're looking at. Another thing that I wanted to ask you about, and you've kind of like led me in the direction that I think you might answer, but is this a one-man operation? Did you do every single aspect of this film? Because the music was my only hesitation, but you said you wrote that. So
yeah, no, I'm a one-man band for the most part. I think I did a project, these guys here, a spoof of the classic Rudolph for Larry the Cable Guy back in 2007. Wow. And can't believe that's been that long ago, 14 years ago. It's a great little piece. It's on YouTube. It's called Rudolph Revisited. And it was on such a crazy, hard deadline that the producers who hired me locally, I never met Larry. They sent me a soundtrack, but there's local friends of his that are producers that lived here in town and tracked me down to do this piece. And I was so stressed over the deadline that they were like, well, how can we help you? Can we, do anything? And I was like, sure, make a tree, and I had a couple of them do a couple of things, but frankly, I had to oversee so much of what they were doing that it took time away from what I was doing anyways. And so it just, that in my studio space is really small. It's a spare bedroom. And so there's really only room for, 3 people standing in there. And so I've just learned over the years that just doing it myself, it, seems to work the best. And it's great and worked for me most of the time. When there's a harsh deadline, that gets a little stressful, but beyond that, it's pretty much just me doing what I do.
So who do you go to bounce ideas or show like a brief clip to? Since it's only you working on the project, how do you know that you're onto something? Or
just, occasionally friends. I've got several friends that are in video production. That's background, and where I earn living, is doing corporate video productions. And so I've got some really funny friends that I'm able to run stuff by, and they'll give me, feedback and let me know what's working and what isn't. But a lot of the time it's just me. And if it makes me laugh, I'm hoping perhaps someone else will laugh at this too, and for the Extinction of Up, I literally had one friend that saw that film when I was about 2/3 of the way through. And he liked it. He liked the premise. He, liked what I was doing with it. But after he saw it, partially done, I finished it and put it out there. And I guess I'm getting good feedback. I honestly don't know. I when I started submitting it to film festivals, and that's the first time I've done that in 25 years. I was very eager and excited to sit in a theater and watch my film in front of a crowd. They'd be like my focus group for the first time. I'd get actual feedback, what worked, what laughed, and then the stupid virus hit. And so I've been in 22 film festivals, and they were all online. I mean, I even got into the Denver Film Festival. I was so excited about that. And I was notified in June of 2020, and the festival wasn't until October. I'm like, surely, we'll be all no. And so it's been a real drag as far as that goes. But actually on October 3rd, two weeks ago-ish, I finally got to sit in a theater in Grand Junction, Colorado. It's over the hills. I got into their film festival, and it was actually played. I used to live there for about 8 years. I graduated high school from there. And I got to sit in the theater where I saw Star Wars in 1977.
Wow.
And watch it. Now, it's a pretty big, nice theater. There's, at least 1,000 seats and balcony and everything. And for the film festival, there was about 60 people that showed up, which is frankly twice as many as I thought would be there. But that was the very first time in a year and a half of all these film festivals that I finally got to sit with a crowd. And it was great and it was cool. And they laughed initially at a lot of stuff. And then as the film went on, I think they were busy reading. And so they weren't laughing as much. They laughed at a couple things that I was like, wow, I didn't even know that was a laugh. But okay, now I know. It was when the two people passed by and they're, just doing a quick hello text to the boys. And that got a great laugh in the audience. And I was puzzled and delighted by that. So it was very cool.
I'll tell you what I laughed at the most. It was when they both say creepy, because this camera
watching them, yeah.
drone, and it's apparently owned by nobody, but
or we don't know. But yeah. Oh, that's great to hear. Thank you.
Yep. So I really, like I said, I really liked it. And where can people check out your work? Do you want to give us some ideas, and we'll put some visuals to that, so to help them find you?
I have a YouTube channel. My company's name is Random Animation, but when I started my channel 15 years ago, that name was already taken. So I just called the channel Randy Boyum. And then I thought that was weird and didn't say anything. So I simply added the word animations. So my online presence is Randy Boyum Animations. Not thrilled with it, but there you go. And so okay. I have a YouTube channel. I also have a Facebook page of that name, which I post a lot of behind the scenes photos. And I actually have something I call Clay Animemes, which are still photos of behind the scenes of the clay characters as clay actors complaining about work and life and things like that. So they're terribly amusing, at least to me. Again, I don't get a lot of feedback except for the few people who click like on them. But I have a lot of fun doing it. I got over 100 of them now, and so they're just interesting and weird little comments that clay people make when you're not in the room. So.
I like that idea. We always are in need of a new spin on memes, in my opinion. So
you bet.
Well, thank you again for your time, and I'm looking forward to this video coming out so people can check out your film and all the other films. So I'm going to be watching the rest of your career with interest from here on out. Well, so thank you again, nerds out there, for watching. And again, www.project-nerd.com for more film festival interviews from Nederland Film Festival. Thanks again, Randy.
Thank you. I appreciate it.